Have you ever wondered why the most successful people in the world seem to say no more than they say yes? What if I told you that Napoleon Hill, the man who interviewed over 500 millionaires and billionaires, discovered that the power to refuse might be your greatest weapon for achieving extraordinary success? Today we're diving deep into one of the most counterintuitive principles that separates the truly successful from everyone else. Most people think success comes from saying yes to every opportunity, every request, every chance that comes their way. They believe that being agreeable and accommodating will open doors and create connections. But here's the shocking truth that Napoleon Hill uncovered through decades of studying the world's wealthiest individuals. The ability to say no strategically is what actually creates the space for massive success to enter your life. Your time, energy, and focus are restricted resources. Every yes you give to something mediocre is a no. You're giving to something potentially extraordinary. Every distraction you allow is stealing precious mental bandwidth from your most important goals. The wealthy understand this principle intuitively, while the masses struggle with boundaries and end up scattered in 1,000 different directions. Napoleon Hill observed that successful individuals had developed what he called selective receptivity. They weren't closed-minded or negative people. Instead, they had trained themselves to quickly evaluate opportunities, relationships, and requests through a filter of their larger purpose. They understood that saying no wasn't about being difficult or uncooperative. It was about protecting their most valuable assets, their time, attention, and energy. Let me share a story that perfectly illustrates this principle. Hill once interviewed a steel magnate who revealed that he received dozens of investment proposals every week. Lesser entrepreneurs would try to evaluate each one, spending hours in meetings and analysis. But this millionaire had developed a simple system. He would ask himself one question: does this opportunity align with my core mission and have the potential to significantly advance my primary objectives? If the answer wasn't an immediate and enthusiastic yes, it was an automatic no. This approach allowed him to focus intensely on the few opportunities that truly mattered. While his competitors were spread thin across multiple ventures, he was able to pour his full attention and resources into ventures that aligned perfectly with his strengths and long-term vision. He consistently outperformed those who tried to do everything. But here's where most people get confused about the power of no. They think it means being negative, pessimistic, or closed off to new experiences. Nothing could be further from the truth. Strategic refusal is actually about creating space for better opportunities to emerge. It's about maintaining the clarity and energy needed to recognize and seize truly exceptional chances when they appear. Hill discovered that successful people had developed what he termed discernment filters. These mental frameworks allowed them to quickly separate worthwhile opportunities from time-wasting distractions. One wealthy individual Hill studied had a rule that he wouldn't consider any new project or investment unless it had the potential to either make him significantly more money or significantly more time within the next 12 months. Another fascinating insight Hill uncovered was how successful people handled social pressures and expectations. They had learned to say no to social obligations that didn't serve their larger purpose. This didn't make them antisocial or selfish. Instead, it allowed them to be fully present and engaged when they did choose to participate in social activities. Their relationships actually improved because they were bringing their best selves to interactions rather than showing up depleted and distracted. The psychology behind strategic refusal runs deeper than most people realize. When you consistently say yes to requests that don't align with your goals, you're essentially training yourself to be reactive rather than proactive. You become a victim of other people's priorities instead of the architect of your own success. Your brain starts to operate in crisis mode, constantly putting out fires instead of building towards something meaningful. Hill noticed that wealthy individuals had trained themselves to pause before responding to any request or opportunity. This pause created space for rational evaluation rather than emotional reaction. They would ask themselves, what would I have to give up to say yes to this? Is this the highest and best use of my time and energy right now? Does this move me closer to or further from my most important objectives? This principle extends far beyond business decisions. Successful people learn to say no to negative thoughts that didn't serve them. They refuse to entertain limiting beliefs or engage in destructive self-talk. They said no to toxic relationships that drained their energy. They declined to participate in gossip, complaining, or other activities that lowered their mental vibration. One of the most powerful applications of strategic refusal involves information consumption. Hill observed that successful people were extremely selective about what they allowed into their minds. They said no to negative news that they couldn't act upon. They refused to consume entertainment that left them feeling empty or agitated. Instead, they carefully curated their mental diet to include only information that educated, inspired, or entertained them in constructive ways. Here's something that might surprise you. The most successful people Hill studied actually said no to more opportunities than unsuccessful people encountered in total. They were so focused on excellence in their chosen field that countless opportunities naturally came their way. But instead of getting excited about having many options, they maintained strict standards about which opportunities deserved their attention. This created a positive feedback loop. By saying no to good opportunities, they could say yes to great ones. By excelling at great opportunities, even better ones began to appear. Their reputation for excellence and focus attracted higher quality opportunities, while their reputation for selectivity filtered out time wasters and energy drains. The transformation happens gradually but powerfully. As you begin implementing strategic refusal in your life, you'll notice several changes. First, you'll have more mental clarity because you're not constantly switching between different priorities and projects. Second, you'll develop deeper expertise in your chosen areas because you're able to focus intensely rather than spreading yourself thin. Third, you'll attract better opportunities because people recognize that if you say yes to something, you're truly committed to excellence. But here's the challenge that stops most people. Saying no often feels uncomfortable in the short term. We worry about disappointing others, missing out on opportunities, or being perceived as difficult. Hill found that successful people had learned to tolerate this temporary discomfort because they understood the long-term benefits of strategic refusal. They came up with approaches and tools that helped them say no politely, without hurting their relationships. They would often say something like, "I appreciate you thinking of me for this opportunity, but I'm completely focused on my current priorities and want to give them my full attention." They learned to say no to the request without saying no to the person. Remember, every master became a master by focusing intensely on mastering their craft, rather than trying to be mediocre at many things. Every breakthrough came from sustained attention and effort rather than scattered attempts. Every fortune was built by saying no to countless distractions and yes to a focused vision executed with relentless consistency. Your success depends not on how many opportunities you can juggle, but on how effectively you can identify and commit to the few opportunities that truly matter. The power of no isn't about limitation or negativity. It's about creating the space, energy, and focus needed for extraordinary achievement. Start today by identifying one thing you need to stop doing so you can excel at what truly matters. Your future self will thank you for having the courage to choose excellence over mediocrity.